the one part where I think academia has a problem, because they say you have very flexible, you are very free, almost sounds like there is no bottom line. Yet you have the publish or perish motivator or let's say force. And at the same time, on the other end of the spectrum, so I don't know if this problem holds in other areas as well, but in social sciences, psychology, neuroscience as well, we are going through a big replication crisis, which, that's very bad for science in general. And I'm wondering, how do you think these two things work together? Or maybe create each other?
In an answer, they don't.
They don't.
So I actually did a lot of my MBA projects on this type of thing.
Oh, okay,
right?
tell me.
So one of the difficulties for an organization is the idea of there's competing values, right? So if you are a very fly by the seat of your pants entrepreneurial organization, you want to be constantly moving, doing new things. That comes out of as a consequence of, say, being a controlled place, a place with procedures, a place with policies and this kind of things, right?
Yes.
So likewise, if you're very, very competitive and market focused, if you want to say, listen, we Institute X, we care about papers. This is what we're about. Okay? Yeah. We are about papers, and if it's not likely to have an impact above 8, this impact factor score, we're not doing it. Yeah. Right? If the Institute wanted to run like that, then what you should see is a very competitive culture where you pilot some things, you look at your data and you say, this data is garbage, I'm not continuing, right? And you're just very competitive focused, right? You can't have that culture, but at the same time, worry about a replication crisis.
Oh yeah, of course.
Or at the same time, worry about the file drawer effect. Yeah. That's another one where people all around the world spend their time trying to answer the same question. It doesn't look sexy enough, so they bury it, right? So at the very least, you have to recognize that your organization cannot exist in all of those places at once.
Sure.
And if it tries to, then it's just going to be a disaster. Yeah. Right. And everybody's going to be really frustrated because they're told one thing by their boss one day, one thing by their boss the other day. They never know what the priority is, and it can be a real disaster. Right. Now there are kinds of ways that you could have different divisions within the organization, right? Of course, like an accounting department should behave culturally different than the entrepreneurial spin-off department, right? Yeah, so industry recognizes this. There are different departments, right? And some industries can have all of these things going on at once. But the important thing is that you, the employee, and your manager, and what the culture has to fit, right? And it can't be trying to be many places at once. You can't say one thing and do another, right? And that's so I would say that like the universities need to say, if they really value and they care about a replication crisis, then they need to reward people for doing replication studies, right?
Agreed.
They need to have meetings and dialogues where they say, we're pre-registering what we're doing. We're going to see this project through to this point where this is the analysis we're committing to do, and this is what we're going to do. And the people who do that then cannot, in say their performance evaluation, be asked about impact of the paper. Impossible. Right. Now, if you want to be really competitive and you want to be very focused, then you have to live with the file drawer effect. Yeah. You have to live with pilots that are just going to be shelved if it doesn't look nice. Right. And you just have to say, this is what we're about. We're going to, and to be honest, like if you're in entrepreneurship, like if you're doing the lean startup, nobody's continuing the thing that's failing. And nobody's sharing that. Nobody's saying, I tried this, there was no market. That's the point. The point is to just, you are going to make a competitive business out of this, and you're going to go on the only thing that's proved to be working, and the other stuff you just ignore and it's just garbage, right?
But there I would say that is to avoid a replication crisis in the startup, because you want to get to a point where this is going to work each and every single time, by no matter who does it.
By no matter who does it,
and that's when it comes to an experimental
design. Then you have to live with what's known as the file drawer effect. Right. People will waste time on stuff that's known not to work, but they didn't know that it wasn't going to work ahead of time.
Right. That's right.
So that's the thing. Right. So there is a slight difference between one advantage, and again thinking of these different cultural conflicts, is if you want to innovate and get to something that will work every time, then you can't have metric kind of events, because otherwise it just becomes box ticking. Right.
Yeah.
So you have to be comfortable with keeping going until it's good.
Yeah.
And not try to have the goal be how many X did I do? How many patents did I file? How many whatever. You have to be a bit more patient with getting it right.
Right. Yeah, no. Yeah. So this is something that was common practice in the lab where I worked. Was you come up with an experimental design, you pilot it, you have a look at the data, and not to see, oh, we already see an effect, great, go ahead. It was more of, do we see is there potentially something? And if there is, let's try to see which aspect of the experimental design we can streamline more to, improve data quality, to have or improve instructions for the participants because it became clear. Oh, okay, things like that.
That's okay. Like, I think you need to pilot that kind of stuff.
But when you keep doing that, from my perspective, you are already it's a fail-safe against a replication problem you might have later on. Yeah. Because what you actually start to do is you start pilot, and then you pilot again, and then you have the next iteration of your design. You actually are already replicating for yourself and seeing the consistency of that effect. Right. And when you see that, and let's say that were to become in practice, I don't think we would have any type of crisis.
No, but I think one issue, right? So again, this this means that no one can say, not no one, but you can't be evaluated at a certain time.
That's true.
You need to be at this benchmark by this time.
Yeah, that's impossible.
Because if you need to be at this benchmark by this time, and you're still iterating, then what you will do is you will try to force it to fit this benchmark.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's a known problem.
Yeah,
right?
that's a known
Likewise, then you can't have you can't have something like an ethical rule that limits the amount of iterations you can do.
Right.
Or you shouldn't have to ask approval every time you need new pilots or something like this, because now you're introducing boundaries, which now pull you away from being able to iterate as many times as possible till you get it right.
Yeah.
Right. So again, this is all this kind of stuff that like this is the kind of things that you part of management training should give you to recognize this space where these things conflict.
Yeah.
And not to just pretend that it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.